There are 7,000 languages, and one of them is called Arbëresh. Arbëresh is spoken by 100,000 people, primarily in southern Italy. However, unlike other widely spoken southern Italian languages, Arbëresh is not a Latin-descended Romance language. It's a close cousin of Albanian. Hi everyone, my name is Daniel, and I'm the director of Wikitongues, where we support endangered and under-resourced languages. So if you want to learn about every language in the world, like, subscribe, and keep watching for more. In 2023, we invited Martin Maggio, a second-generation British Arbëresh speaker, to join our growing network of Wikitongues Fellows. Wikitongues Fellows are the leaders of new language revitalization projects. They're people who are keeping endangered languages alive.
Mua me thon Martin Di Maggio, flas Arbëresht e levengertere ka generacioni e dit. Gluch Arbëreshe e një gluch e vjetra albanise që e flasen arvanitrat të Greqja e ata me gjak arvanise që rrinë të Italia meridionali. Kur isha shumë i vogël, mëma ime më komundarje me fjalët arbëreshe. Jam I vetmi ka generacioni ime, tra ata që njoh, lërë të Diaspora, që flet gluhën mirë. Jam edhe më linguist e një YouTuber.
The Arbëresh people trace their origins to southeastern Europe. In the medieval period, the territory that now forms the modern nation-state of Albania was divided into a patchwork of feudal lordships at the crossroads of Serbian, Venetian, and Byzantine influence. Though divided by politics, they were united by a shared cultural identity, expressed through a shared language family, Albanian. The Albanian languages are Indo-European, meaning they share a common origin with the majority of languages across Europe and South Asia. However, as an independent branch of the Indo-European family, Albanian actually bears little resemblance to its distant cousins. For example, there is no practical mutual intelligibility between Albanian languages and the Romance languages of southern Italy. So, how did Arbëresh, an Albanian language, end up on the Italian peninsula? Well, in 1385, the Ottoman Empire, based in what is now Turkey, invaded the Albanian territories, launching an 85-year annexation war. By 1479, virtually all of Albania was under Ottoman control. At the height of this conflict, nearly 200,000 people fled Albania and the Albanophone territories of Morea in Greece, crossing the Adriatic Sea into Italy, where they established permanent communities and cultivated a diaspora. The Arbëresh people today trace their origins to these migrations. In fact, Arbëresh was the native name for all Albanophone peoples prior to the 18th century. In the 15th century, both the Albanophone community in Italy and their cousins back home called themselves Arbëresh, a name of uncertain etymology. Then, sometime in the 16th century, the Albanians of Albania started calling themselves the Shqiptare, which, if it derives from Shqiponje, the Albanian word for eagles, may mean something like children of eagles. However, it may also derive from Shqiptoj, the Albanian word for pronounce, in which case it would mean something like those who speak clearly or those who speak the same language. As the Albanians of Albania underwent this name change, the community in Italy held on to Arbëresh as an identifier. If you're wondering where English got the word Albania, it comes from Albania, the medieval Latin name from the territory, which itself comes from the Greek word albanoi, which may be related to the Arbëre root in Arbëresh. You could call this an exonym, which is a term in linguistics, anthropology, and geography to describe a non-native name for a place or people used primarily by outsiders. However, since Albanian may just be a Latin translation of Arbëre, you could think of it as an indirect English translation of the original name of all Albanophone peoples. Today, the native name for the Republic of Albania is Republike e Shqipërisë, while the Arbëresh have retained their historic name. They also retained a measure of their historic language, which diverges significantly from modern mainland Albanian.
Arbëresh is so far removed from, let's say, mainland Albanian dialects that we can't really call it a dialect of Albanian in terms of we should really be saying that there's a family of Albanian languages, and Arbëresh is one of them.
Albanian is commonly described as one language, but it's better understood as a macro language like Arabic or Chinese. That is, a family of closely related languages, dialects, or if you want to get technical, speech varieties. In the Republic of Albania, Albanian languages include Geg, spoken in the country's north, and Tosk, spoken in the south. On paper, Geg and Tosk are similar, sharing more than 90% of their vocabulary. However, off paper, pronunciation varies, and the farther you travel from Albania's central region, the less mutually intelligible Geg and Tosk become. Meanwhile, in Italy, Arbëresh developed in relative isolation, retaining much of the structure and pronunciation of medieval Tosk Albanian under Romance language influence. This includes loanwords and diminutives from medieval Sicilian and vocabulary from Norman French. It also has vocabulary from Siculo-Arabic, a Semitic language once spoken on the island of Sicily. As a result of this influence, Arbëresh has much lower mutual intelligibility with Geg and Tosk than Geg and Tosk have with each other. There's also a fourth Albanian language, Arvantika, which is spoken by the Albanian diaspora in Greece, but that's for another video. If you're an Arvantika speaker or you know one, we would love to talk. Sadly, Arbëresh is an endangered language, which means that younger generations are less fluent than their elders. If this trend continues, Arbëresh could fall dormant or even become extinct before the turn of the next century. Nominally, the Italian government wants to help. Arbëresh is one of 12 officially recognized historical minority languages in Italy. On paper, this provides a degree of support for mother tongue education and media, but in practice, these promises are rarely kept. In the case of Arbëresh, the problem is also linguistic, because Italy never specifically recognized Arbëresh. It recognized Albanian. Remember, Albanian is not a single language, but a family of languages, so this is kind of like promising to protect Spanish by making Romance languages official.
Italy, there's a law in Italy that protects national languages, but those languages are related to nation-state languages. So, you know, Europe has this big problem with one nation, one language kind of ideologies. Italy protects the Albanian language, and on the ground, that's quite complicated because nobody really knows how to translate that. You know, are we protecting, do we need to use standard Albanian? Do we need to use our local dialects? Because we have 49 villages and there's probably 49 dialects of Arbëresh. So whilst there is a law that's kind of protecting it, but it's ambiguous.
Under that ambiguity, Albanian education in Italy is either non-existent or takes the form of Standard Albanian, which is a standardized variety of mainland Tosk. And as we've established, this is a different language from Arbëresh. So as of recording this video, Arbëresh isn't actually taught in any Italian schools. The same is true for resources. Textbooks are either in Standard Albanian or a constructed hybrid of Standard Albanian and Arbëresh vernacular, which most speakers find unintelligible. All of this contributes to the decline of Arbëresh as an endangered language.
There isn't really any kind of practical help or any real support or funding, and there certainly isn't anything that reflects the actual spoken language. Nobody, my generation, above my generation, or younger than me, really has any resources or anything that they can pick up and say, okay, first of all, I know how to read that because the orthography is familiar to me. And second, I know how to pronounce it. And then I know what that word means. Because at the moment, the textbooks are basically unintelligible.
In the absence of meaningful government support, the work of revitalizing Arbëresh is, for now, entirely up to individuals and community groups who care enough and have the time to do it. And a lot of that work has focused on actually realizing the support that the Italian government has promised, on getting the language into schools. However, there's an obstacle to building any formal education program, and that is the dialectal diversity of Arbëresh.
Because we have 49 villages and there's probably 49 dialects of Arbëresh. My village is 3 kilometers away from another village and we have different words and different grammar. So it's very, very difficult.
One of the most loaded aspects of language revitalization is linguistic standardization. The process of developing an official grammar, dictionary, and pronunciation system to facilitate mother tongue education, media, and more recently, natural language processing tools like autocorrect, machine translation, and AI. If you learned your language in school, you may take for granted the fact that your language has a standardized dialect in addition to other more organic dialects that are unique to certain regions, cultures, and subcultures. For example, New York English, Appalachian English, and Ave are all regional or culturally specific English varieties in the United States, but only standardized North American English is taught in schools. Most of the world's 7,000 languages don't have standardized dialects, and that's because standardized dialects don't emerge naturally. Rather, they're developed intentionally by cultural institutions. So, if you set out to save your language from extinction, and you decide a standardized dialect would be helpful, how do you go about standardizing it, especially when your language already has lots of dialects? Well, you could pick an existing dialect and make it the standard, as they did when they based standardized French on the French spoken in Paris. Or you could invent a standardized variety by merging aspects of different dialects, as the Basque Language Academy did when they developed Euskara Batua, or standardized Basque. You could also create more than one standardized variety for different dialects, as they did when they developed Central Catalan for Catalonia and Valencian for Valencia. Linguists call this a pluricentric language. None of these strategies is perfect, but they all get the job done. To be clear, some degree of standardization is helpful. Without it, it's very hard to develop mother tongue textbooks, implement mother tongue education, or simply write in your language. But too much standardization is harmful. It can erode your language's existing dialects, your community's internal linguistic diversity, and it can get people thinking that the standardized dialect is the right way to speak. For endangered languages, this dynamic is existentially dangerous because tension over correct or incorrect speech discourages people from doing the most important thing they can do for a language: speaking it. So, in review, language standardization is often helpful and sometimes necessary, but getting it right is a delicate balancing act. In the case of Arbëresh, there have been community-led efforts to create a standardized dialect as a first step to mother tongue education. However, these grassroots efforts have failed to attract a broad social consensus and have yet to have a positive impact.
People are a little bit, in general, people are a little bit resigned. You know, there's kind of, they don't have any real education in the language. Everybody tends to speak it, but you know, there's this real problem with believing that they don't speak properly. And I really do kind of want to change that with some of the projects that I'm doing.
As a language activist, Martin isn't focused on institutionalizing Arbëresh. Rather, he's focused on making Arbëresh fun again, on restoring his community's linguistic and cultural pride. Language revitalization is a generational social process that involves linguistic documentation, education, and cultural engagement with art and technology. It's hard, but at its core, it's rooted in family and community, and it should be fun. Your language should make you feel good about yourself. To be clear, Martin is comfortable in all domains. In fact, unlike me, he's a trained linguist with a master's degree in language documentation and description from SOAS University in London. His dissertation explored translanguaging, which you could think of as confident code switching, as a means of keeping Arbëresh alive. And as a linguist, he understands the importance of cultivating the informal realm of language. As a language activist, he's a YouTuber who makes videos in and about Arbëresh. And he joined the 2023 cohort of Wikitongues Fellows to develop a card game for informal mother tongue education in his community.
Very often, a lot of projects are focused on literacy, getting children to write in Arbëresh. And whilst that does carry some prestige and you think, okay, I can see it written, so therefore it's a real language, that hasn't really done much to save our language from any kind of decay. So I think that all this focus on literacy and writing and, you know, getting children to sit down and for 1 hour a week at school for them to write exercises in Arbëresh, this has done nothing for our community, you know, which is why I thought, you know, we have to take it out of this boring educational system and focus on just, a card that has a picture of a prickly pear on it, and that's a fruit that grows everywhere. It's a cactus, a picture of that, and then the kid has to say they have to know the word for it, and then if they don't know the word, then another kid can shout it out, and then you get to have the card if you know the word, and then the other person who has it written will just see the word, and they'll be able to say, oh yeah, that's this word, but even on that level, I think, maybe it's less important for them to see the word written, and it's more important to just know the word from seeing it on a picture. And I think just jogging people's memories and getting them to use it in a fun way is more important.
The card game, which is based on Martin's native dialect, is effectively a vocab memorization contest. Cards have illustrations on one side and an Arbëresh word on the other. Since, as we've established, Arbëresh doesn't yet have a standardized dialect that would inform a written standard, Martin used a mixed orthography to write the words, based on Italian spelling, which Arbëresh people already know, with input from standard Albanian to capture certain unique sounds. He calls this the popular orthography, because it's long been in use on social media, where people use it to text one another. Since 2023, Martin has gone on to introduce the card game in Arbëresh-speaking towns in southern Sicily, where it has achieved a degree of popularity.
They were printed and people bought them, and it actually went on sale in a shop called Omaforos, which is in Piano degli Albanesi. And I kept in touch with the shop owner, and he said that there was a lot of footfall and a lot of people were interested in them.
More recently, the municipal government of Piana degli Albanesi has shown its support. You can actually order Martin's card game on their website. It's also been used in less formal educational settings, like school visits to the local library in Santa Cristina Gela, where it appears to be effective.
My cousin, he works with the nursery school children in the library, and the first thing he said was that using them with the children was really engaging, and that it was easy to pronounce the words because we had consciously chosen an orthography that kind of was a compromise between the Italian style and the Albanian style, as research has shown that the community doesn't, by and large, understand or able to replicate words that are written in the Albanian orthography.
By making language learning fun and engaging for Arbëresh children, Martin's card game has the potential to have an outsized impact on the future of his language, by raising a new generation of speakers who care about their mother tongue. This is why fun matters in language revitalization. As it happens, this isn't the only time we've seen a card game used for language revitalization. Just last year, members of Team Wikitongues, that's me, Kristen, and Freddie, met a group of Taiwanese language activists in Taipei who had developed a similar card game that has been used to teach Taiwanese in Taipei public schools. So if you're a language activist who feels like language revitalization in your community could use a little more fun, don't wait for Duolingo to gamify it. Try making a language game. And whoever you are, if your language is at all endangered, or if you don't speak your ancestral language as much as you wish you did, try engaging with it. You may strengthen your relationship with your family and discover a deeper connection to, even a pride in, your community's history.
Familja ime vjen ka një chor Arbëresh që I thonë së ndakstin, të kurrin 900 gjinde, 4 kilometre dhe ansnjatër chor Arbëreshe të kurrin 6.000 gjinde. Rtaja non rat tim, e kjo e një brezarrie Shëngjergjit, është e ti patron të Arbëreshvet. Aherna, gratë kam një të biznonës sime, visheshen me një kostumizi për nga dit. Kemi kostume të raht për të martuamet o shurbeset e kurorës, e I kukje e ari a I të nuses. Janë ata që thonë serta të veshura vjen ka bujare të herna.
What nobility might you be descended from? If you're an Arbëresh speaker, I hope you'll give Martin's card game a try, and think about how you can start contributing to the mother tongue movement in your community. And if you speak another language that's endangered or under-resourced, I hope this video gets you thinking about how you can get started keeping your language alive. What are your ancestral languages, and what do you think about language revitalization? Let us know in the comments. So now it's time for the Patreon question of the video. Claudio Farrell asks, do you see any potential for language revitalization from large language models? The answer is categorically yes. If large language models include your language, then tools like chatbots, autocorrect, and machine translation can be made available in your language. All of these tools make it easier to teach your language, learn your language, or use your language online. Conversely, research shows that if you can't interact with your phone or your computer in your language, you're more likely to stop speaking your language. So as AI becomes more ingrained in the internet, it's going to be increasingly important for AI companies to support as many languages as possible, not just the 50 most widely spoken. In fact, a couple years ago, one of our fellows, Jacqueline Brixey, developed a chatbot that could code switch between English and her ancestral language, Choctaw. And soon, we're going to be starting an experiment with Wikitongues Fellow Agnes Abba to see how easily we can get a chatbot speaking her language, Igala, with limited training data. So if you're interested in that, make sure to join our newsletter at wikitongues.org, because we'll have a lot more to say about AI and multilingualism in the next 3 to 6 months. In the meantime, as always, for being a part of Wikitongues, thank you. Or as we would say in one of my ancestral languages, Yiddish, Ashanam Dunk.